do a review in Likutei Siches in Chelek Chav Dalet, volume 24, the first Sicha for the Parshas Kisovei. Over this is a Rashi Sicha, which the Rebbe shows a whole new insight other than it would appear in the simple reading, and the Rebbe asks some very simple questions, and through the Rebbe's answer, how the Rebbe learns the Rashi, all the questions become answered. Basically, in the Pasuk, it talks about that Hashem has made the Yidden special. That he should be your God and you should follow in his ways. But then the pasuk says further, "V'Hashem ha'mircha hayoim." So basically, you, the Yidden, separate Hashem. Hamarto hayoim. Rashi says Hafrosha, Loshon Hafrosha. You separated Hashem, and Hashem has separated you. How did Hashem separate you? Liyos loy la'am zgula, to be a treasured nation, a zgula nation, kasher diber loch, as he has spoken to you. Where did Hashem speak to you? Kasher diber loch, and to keep his mitzvahs. Where did he speak to you that you should be an am zgula? So Rashi says kasher diber loch, where? The pasuk says in Shmos Yutes Hayes, "V'yisem lizgulos." Hashem has told you that you should be to me for a treasured nation. So this is the pasuk reciting Moshe Rabbeinu, reviewing and saying, "As Hashem has spoken to you, v'yisem lizgula." But notice that Rashi doesn't bring down kasher diber loch, also liyis loy lam zgula. He just quotes from the pasuk kasher diber loch. And he says the pasuk is Zgula. There's no need for Rashi to bring down the words of Liyas Loilam Zgula, because that says already in the pasuk that he brings Zgula. Compare this to the next pasuk. The pasuk in Yutes continues further. Ulisitcha elyen al kol hagoyim asher also litihila ulishem ulsifaris, to put you superior over all the nations. Hashem has made you for praise, for name, for beauty. And then he says, to be a holy nation for your people, kasher diber, again, as he had spoken. So what is the kasher diber? Where did Hashem say, v'yisem li kedoshim, you should be holy, Rashi brings down. So, but here, Rashi doesn't just bring down the words kasher diber and tells you Yisem Kedoshim, but he also brings down from the pasuk quotes v'liyoscham kodesh. So the Rebbe says either way. How come before we just explaining the kasher diber doesn't bring down the quote from the pasuk, only the words kasher diber loch? Because it's understood from the Yisem Zgula. So how come we need it over here? The Rebbe will explain this also very beautifully, and also the Rebbe explains why Rashi brings down the pasuk from Kedoshim in Vayikra Chof instead of the pasuk that he started off with over here in Shemais. Over there, we also find the idea of Kedoshim, Liyoscham Kodesh, and also within Kedoshim itself. Later on in the parsha verses in the beginning of the parsha of Kedoshim, the quote from the pasuk that Rashi brings also. The Rebbe explained at lengthy explanation what the special uniqueness of the Yiddish people versus in Primis in Yonim, the Am Zgula and the Sitcha Elya, and all these details, how it's understood in the inner matter of things, as the Yid is the purpose of creation and everything else is there to serve for the Yid. As we will see, we'll go step by step. Start from the beginning. Tovo, Aleph. Of them pasuk v'Hashem hemircha hayoim liyes loy la'am zgulo kasher diber loch, that Hashem has separated you to be to him a treasured nation, as he had spoken to you. Stellt sich Rashi the Wörter kasher diber loch. So Rashi places himself on the words as he has spoken to you. And is mefarish. Where did Hashem say this? Ve'yisem lizgula. This is in the pasuk in Shemois before Matan Torah. The Eibishter says, Yisro Yutas, hey, the Eibishter said to them that you should be to me zgula, an am zgula. The noch stellt sich Rashi in zweiten pasuk, the second pasuk. Over here it says also you should be a holy nation as Hashem had spoken. Where did Hashem speak? Be a holy nation. You should be holy to me. So the first Rebbe wants to understand the difference why in the first pasuk he doesn't quote from the pasuk Liyesh Le'am Sgula, he just says Kasher Diber. And in the second pasuk, he quotes V'liyos Cham Kodesh in addition to Kasher Diber. Darf man verstehen, if Rashi darf nicht meitig sein from pasuk. If Rashi doesn't need to, is not necessary for Rashi to quote from the verse. Was there dover is what is Diber, what he spoke, what is the matter that he spoke? Is weil der steht doch in pasuk meforish, because that is very clear in the the first time Rashi explains Kasher Dibur doesn't have to say quote Liyos Lam Sgula, because that says clearly in the pasuk. Rashi is only interested to explain nor vu gefindt man dem Dibur Kasher Dibur. Where do we find that Hashem spoke to you? So Rashi quotes the pasuk. Where do we find the Dibur Friya? So the question is, Farvos is eres mighty bantzveitim. Also, when the second time when it says Kasher Diber, Rashi does quote V'liyos Cham Kodesh. Und ob es jen nötig zu mighty sein, euch was der Dover is. It's important to quote from the verse also what is it, and that's why we're bringing down here. V'liyos Cham Kodesh hat das gedacht mighty sein euch beim ersten Mal. He should have quoted it also the first time. Seems to be just a question why he quotes here, the quotes they're different. Everything will come out very beautifully according to the Rebbe's explanation. We see that Rashi, every word is precise, and the quotes of Rashi is necessary in the second time, and it's not necessary in the first time. After we'll really understand what Rashi is coming to teach us over here in this pasuk. Now the Rebbe is going to ask further why Rashi chooses the pasuk Kasher Diber, the pasuk of the end of the Parsha of Kedoshim, versus the same pasuk that he had mentioned earlier in Shemois. In that same pasukim over there, it says also about the being a kodesh. And Rashi could have said that it means that pasuk. And Rashi chooses in the Parshas B'Chukois and also over there in the Parshas Kedoshim, and Rashi chooses the pasuk of the end of Kedoshim, not in the beginning of Kedoshim. Base. We also need to understand what Rashi touched in Zweiten Dibur, that Rashi translates in the second Rashi as Kasher Diber meant, where did he speak? It means V'yisem li Kedoshim from Parsha Kedoshim. It says you should be holy to me in the portion of Kedoshim. The Rebbe asked, Noch V'yisem li Zgula, after the words should be for me a treasured nation in the Parsha Shmoy that Rashi quoted. But Rashi brings from Parsha Yisra, that Rashi brings down from the portion of Yisra and Shmois. Is there a mamshech door? The pasuk continues over there. Va'atem tiyuli mamlechas kohanim v'gei kodesh. You should be to me a nation of priests and a holy nation. Is favos lernt Rashi. So how come Rashi learns as der Kasher Diber in Zweiten Posik that the Kasher Diber over there says clearly Goy Kodesh? So why does Rashi say when it says in the second Kasher Diber, Liyos Cham Kodesh Kasher Diber, meant an ander Dibur from the Meibershtin, means another saying of Hashem, V'yisem Likidoshim, which Hashem said, and not need them. Was steht zusammen mit V'yisem Lizgula, not that one which is together. V'yisem Lizgula, it says right away. Goy Kodesh, continue on that same pasuk. So many of the commentators in Torah Taka say that that's what it means. the pasuk of Yisrael, not the pasuk of Kedoshim that Rashi quotes. Nochmer, the Rebbe says it's not just a matter of choosing a pasuk, but actually it would be smoother to go ahead and the flow with the pasuk that quoting with the parsha of Shemois. Nochmer, loydi meforshim is glad the hemshach do in pasuk. According to the meforshim, it's smooth, the flow, the continuation in the pasuk. If the verter va'atem tiyu li mamlechas kohanim, that you should be to me a nation of priests. V'shteit in Parshas Yisrael. So what does it mean? You should be to me a nation of priests. Taich Rashi, sorry, means officers. So then, if we understand that Limachas Kohanim, so our pasuk in Kisavoy that we're learning now aligns beautiful with the pasuk in Shemois that Rashi quotes in the beginning, because Apizekum Tois, as the alle protim do in the psukim, all the details in the verses, liyis loy la'am zgula, to be a treasured nation, the yisum l'zgula, like l'sitcha elyon al kol hagoyim, and then l'yoshcham kodesh, seine behesem to the drei protim, they fit, these three aspects fit the three details in them, diber, as the spoke von Eibishton dort in Parshas Yisrael, as Hashem has spoken the portion of Yisrael. First, it says liyis loylam zgula, fits with v'yisum l'zgula mekol ha'amim, to be a treasurable nation. So that's simple. Rashi says that. But then the second part in our pasuk, u'lesitcha elyon al kol hagoyim, to put you above, higher than all the nations. That fits with the second part over there. You should be a nation of priests, should be officer. That means higher. With the last part, V'goy Kodesh. And Rashi says, no, that Am Kodesh means the pasuk of Kedoshim and not the pasuk of Yisrael, which would seem to be the flow in order. But maybe the Rebbe says, if it's only one, the same pasuk, and it's the same saying, Kasher Diber, so why would the pasuk by us repeat Kasher Diber? First, Am Zgulo Kasher Diber, and then again, when it's a Am Kodesh Kasher Diber, but it's not a separate Diber. So the Gimel, maybe it would seem we can answer. As the Tam was Rashi bringt the Posik V'goy Kodesh. Why does Rashi not bring the Posik V'goy Kodesh in Parshas Yisroi of V'liyoscham Kodesh Kasher Diber, to also explain that Liyoscham Kodesh is that same Parsha? Is Valdemut is doch dos der selber Kasher Diber. Then it's the same Kasher Diber. Und der Posik will do by Yoscham Kodesh, and then the Posik, when we say here, you should be Anam Kodesh, shouldn't have to repeat again Kasher Diber. It's already said that as he had spoken. This is the same Kasher Diber. So Rashi has to find another place. But first of all, the Rebbe says there is an interruption because it says V'lishmer kol mitzvosov, so there is not. It doesn't end with, it doesn't go follow straight, and there's a lishma kol mitzvosov, so that would apply it. But then the question the Rebbe says is on the pasuk. So how come Taka the pasuk wrote it in such a way, two kasha dibers, and make an interruption, and say another time kasha diber? Why does it belong in the middle? So this is difficult. This is squeezing it. Because first of all, there is an interruption, lishmer kol mitzvosov, so therefore it doesn't matter that the pasuk repeats again kasher diber before it says v'liyoscham kodesh, because the Torah interrupted. But but further, like them is their pasuk Torah. So okay, So you're saying Rashi wants to learn it because there's an extra kasha dibur, but then we need to explain the pasuk. Or Rashi should have answered the problem. Pavos mean der pasuk at zweiten dibur. Why does the pasuk mean here something else? Und that's why he repeats again kasha dibur, because there is a meaning something else. So how come the pasuk does not want to say the pasuk that is in Parshas Yisrael? Which comes as a follow-up to Yisum Lipiskula. So we need to understand why Rashi does not take the pasuk from Parshas Yisrael, the following to the previous Rashi, which says that the beginning of the pasuk goes by the Parshas Yisrael, and Kasha Dibur should be that as well. And then within the parsha that Rashi brings down in Kedoshim, the Rebbe wants to know, why does Rashi bring down the end of the parsha versus the beginning? The posik was Rashi brings steht b'siyum parshas Kedoshim. The portion of Rashi says is brought down in the end of the parshas Kedoshim. We already find earlier the verse, the language Kedoshim to you, Bereish Parshas Kedoshim, in the beginning of the Kedoshim. Unoch freer, there's even before that, before the Parshas Kedoshim, in Parshas Shmini, v'yisam v'iskedashtem, v'yisam Kedoshim, v'sei Parshas Shmini, you should sanctify, be holy in the end of Parshas Shmini. Pavos bringt Rashi, the Mishpeta Dikumposik, why Rashi brings the secondary verse. Rebbe continues that it's schwer zu verantworten. It's difficult to answer that the reason why Rashi chooses specifically the posik in the end of the parsha, as ibald in them posik the parsha seinu state, since in the posik in our parsha it's written, V'lihi yoischo am kodesh lashem elekecho. It says specifically, to be a holy nation to God, your God. The Riber bring that up posik. That's why he brings a verse where steht euch mefurish v'yisem li kedoshim. You should be holy to me. Mashenkin the andere psukim and all, as opposed to the other verses that mentioned earlier, where the loshen is kedoshim stam, over there it just says be holy. Is nit mudgish, and it isn't emphasized in those psukim as the kedusha is li, that it's my kedusha. That's a difficult answer, because if that's why, then Rashi should bring down the words Lashem Elekecha over here. About lefizeh, volt Rashi gedacht meitig sein from posik do ich devert Lashem Elekecha. If that was the case, Rashi should have quoted here also the words Lashem Elekecha. V'bald Rashi is meitig bois belois v'liyoscham kodesh kasher diber. He is just quoting, should be a holy nation as he spoke, without mentioning. He leaves out the words to God your God. It says it leaves out in between words, between Am Kodesh and Kasher Diber. It says Lashem Elekecha. It doesn't even hint them in a goimer. So that's proof. It's evidence as der Kasher Diber batzitzach to v'hiliyoscham kodesh, that as he spoke and goes on liyoscham kodesh, that's what he spoke to you, not Lashem Elekecha. Und is dabei nicht äußern zu madgish sein dem Prat von Lashem Elekecha, and he's not intending over here to emphasize that over here you have the detail Lashem Elekecha, because Rashi would not have quoted from the pasuk and left out these two words if that's is what Rashi is trying to find the pasuk to match this. It's just that Rashi wants to show where there is Kedoshim. So then the question is, why did Rashi not bring down the pasuk from Shmois, and why not in the Parsha Kedoshim, the first pasuk, the beginning of Kedoshim, and also Parsha Shmini, as the Rebbe asked over there also is the idea of Kedoshim. So the Rebbe is going to explain by first giving us an understanding that there is really two different meanings. We were thinking that when you say be me a nation of Zgula, and the meaning be a holy nation, that are very similar. There's just different kinds of expressing it. But the Rebbe shows that really it means two different things, and therefore the meaning of Kasher Diber has to change from as he had spoken about you, or as he had spoken for you to do. It's either what Hashem has made you from Hashem's point of view, it made you special. The other Kasher Diber means what Hashem has told you have to do. Let's look inside. We can say the explanation of this. At first glance, is though in pasuk nitglat, in this pasuk it doesn't seem so smooth. That you should be a holy nation is betoichnoi dieselbe zach. In contents, it's the same thing. That you should be to him to a treasured nation. What does it do? A holy nation and a treasured nation. They describe how the Jewish nation, the Jewish people are distinguished, separate from all nations. Am Sgula, they're a treasured nation. Am Kodesh, a holy nation. So if that is the case, haben sie gedarf stehen zusammen gleich einer noch ein zweiten. So then they should have been written one after the other, if it actually means the same, just different styles of describing the similar idea. Von dem was Vili Yoisham Kodesh steht in der zweiten Pasuk, but the fact that Yoisham Kodesh is written in another Pasuk, Ubesiyumoi, and at the end of the next pasuk, remember we learned in the Yoishcha, the Sitcha Elyon, after the Kasher Diber Loch Skula, Sitcha Elyon, the Yoishcham Kodesh Hashem Elekecha Kasher Diber. In the end of pasuk Yutes. So that means noch dem wer is mafsik mit velishmer kol mitzvayso. And interrupt. It says Litcha Elyon. Let state that zweiten Pasuk ubesiyumay. Noch dem wer is mafsik mit lishmer kol mitzvayso. Lishmer kol mitzvayso is in the previous pasuk after. In the previous pasuk, it says in pasuk Yudches, "B'Hashem emircha hayoim l'Islam zgulo kasher diber loch." So after the Am zgulo kasher diber loch, the pasuk adds v'lishmer kol mitzvayso. It's not talking about anymore the follow-up of Am zgulo, what Hashem has made you to. The pasuk is mal lishmer kol mitzvayso. V'seret wegen der peula von Yidden bnei hatzivur. That is already talking about what the Yidden have to do, not what the Eibishter did, made you into an Am Zgula. But it's lishmer kol mitzvayso, that you must do mitzvahs. This is not an idea of a description and advantage as it in relationship how you are relationship to all the goyim. Is move on. So we understood as Am Zgula and Am Kodesh Do, when we say a treasured nation, a holy nation, these are two totally separate aspects. because it's two separate aspects. We can't say that Liyescham Kodesh Kasher Diber made them Goy Kodesh, means the holy nation that was stated by Parshas Yisrael, that it's written in Parshas Yisrael. Was dort is das an Inyan, over there being the holy nation is what Hashem made you into. Was dort is das an Inyan. Over there, it's an idea of Askum Behemshen V'Teichen Echot. It comes as a follow-up and a flow, and it has one idea, one content. Mit v'yisum li Skula Mikola Amim, be to me a treasured nation from all the nation and be a holy nation. That's over there, but over here it doesn't mean the same. First, the pasuk says Kasher Diber to make you a treasured nation, but it then says you should do mitzvahs, and then, as we will see in Ois Hey, the pasuk is telling you that you also should be an Am Kodesh, which means you have to do things to become Kodesh, not what Hashem made you into an Am Skul, an Am Kodesh. You have to become Kodesh. Hey, was besteht der Chelek zwischen Liyescham Am Kodesh? So, what is the difference between what it says in the pasuk Liyescham Kodesh in pasuk Yutes, and V'yisem Lizgula Mikol Amin, which is written in pasuk Yutes? Neptes Rashi Aruis von dem, was in ersten pasuk steht Kasher Diber Loch. Over there it says like Hashem has spoken Loch. There's a difference. In our pasuk it says Kasher Diber. Our pasuk, I mean in pasuk Yutes, it says Kasher Diber. But over there, the pasuk adds the word Loch, has spoken Loch. The word Loch, as we saw in Rashi earlier, could also mean Hashem has spoken of you, about you. By us, it doesn't say Loch. Over here is Kasher Diber, what he's spoken to tell you what to do. Rashi takes this from this ersten pasuk steht Kasher Diber Loch. Ba v'liyoscham am Kodesh steht Kasher Diber. Over here it says as he had spoken, believe them word Loch, without the word Loch. That's Bore Bazel. What is the explanation? Rashi hat schon mefarish given frier in Parshas Vayetze. Rashi already explained earlier in the portion of Vayetze, the Barti Loch, I will say everything that I've spoken to you. It doesn't mean Hashem spoke to him. Hashem didn't speak to him everything. But the Barti Loch litzorchoch, for your needs, v'olech about you. Mashiftachti la'Avrom al Zaroi, this that I promised to Avram for his seed, l'choiftachti, that was for you. V'chein kol li v'loch v'loi v'lohem. Anytime Rashi says, it says li, to me, you, them, to him, to them, hasmuchim eitzel dibur, which are next to spoken lo or lo, mishamshim loshen al. They're so on them, about them. The Funis move on. From this we understand Benidin Didan, in our case, as their pirush kasher diber loch, that he's spoken to you, made nit as zoy v'irahot geret tzudirov. It doesn't mean that he's spoken to you, tzu Yidden, that Hashem has spoken to Yidden, but he's spoken about Yidden. Especially, the Rebbe adds now, why would Hashem speak to you? His old Torah was to you. Why do we have to emphasize to you? But we want to say about you. It's different. If it means to you, Kasher Diber Loch, he spoke to you, you were able to ask the question, my Komash Malon, why does he have to tell you Hashem has spoken to you? Of course, Kol HaTorah is gesagt geworden zu Yidden. All of Torah was told to the Yidden. But over here, because it doesn't mean to you, nor letzorchoch v'alecha, it means to your needs, and it's about you. V'yarot giret vegendir, he spoke of you. At suzog, haftocha fardir, oivdir. He's talking about, he spoke about you, he promised a pledge for you and about you. Und das ist der Hemshech HaKosov. And this now is the flow of the verse. The pasuk says, "V'Hashem mircha hayoim liyos loy la'am zgula." Hashem has distinguished you, separated you to be His treasured nation. Was meant? This means as who He frishcha a love. He has separated you to Him. Me'amei ha'oretz, from the nations of the world, from the other nations. Liyos loy la'am zgula, to be to Him as a treasured nation. Is the Reifter given? So the what is accomplished? What do we make up here? Is kasher di beloch. With the Eibishter hodos maftiach given, gesagt wegen Yidden, as Hashem has promised and said about the Yidden that you'll be the Yisrael Lizgula. And the Rebbe is Rashi mefarish. As kasher di beloch, what means that He spoke to you about you, made them dibur, the Yisrael Lizgula, that the Eibishter says, you will be to me a treasured nation. Was dort is given der Dover, this kasher diber. What Hashem spoke there, the div Dover wegen Yid, that was about Yid. That's the first pasuk kasher diberloch. In zweiten pasuk will Yeshcham Kodesh gemer kasher diber, but in the second pasuk in Yeshcham Kodesh, as he had spoken, besteht nicht loch. Is move on. Over there it doesn't say loch, just as he's spoken. So it's understood as kasher diber meint nicht wegen them dibur from the Eibishter wegen Yidden. Over here it doesn't mean as the Eibishter had spoke about the Yidden, kasher diber loch about the Yidden. Avtocha wegen them was v'tzai midir. Sort of a promise that will be with you, that Hashem is fulfilled His promise, sort of that He promised about. Doesn't say loch that has spoke to you. Nor kipshote, but it means little kasher diber. Vi hat geret und angesagt. He has spoken and he is instructed. That's, we know, the diber he instructed. But thus meant at tzivui eifapula funid. This means a command, an instruction of an act that the Yidden must do. Is verstandig. That's why it's understood. This does not mean to be a nation, a priest, and a holy nation that it's spoken about before in the portion of Yisrael. That's the same as the previous statement in Pasuk Yud Ches. You should be to me a treasured nation. That is for your need and about you. That's a dibur von Eibishter wegen sein Pula mit ihnen. This is a talking, a dibur, as he's spoken, that Hashem spoke about what He's going to do, about a Yid. But here, not a dibur from the Eibishter, but here it's already spoken, a command, a tzivui of Yeshcham Kodesh, a command to be a holy nation. I mean, I hate to interject my own, I never do that, but the brilliance over here, how smooth it is, you can't resist. But how the Rebbe so beautifully answers the extra word and how it means. Anyways, the Rebbe, no, the reason I don't do it, it's not my place to it's self-understood, but sometimes it just comes out without unintentionally. Anyways, the Rebbe Zokt Rashi, that's where Rashi says, as das meint der Posik, das meint dem Posik, the Yisem li Kiddushim. That this is the meaning of the verse, you should be to me Kiddushim. A meaning of you be Kodesh to me. But das is dem Eibishten Zatzivu as Yidden sollen sein Kiddushim. This is the Hashem's command that you should be holy. Something that they have to do. High time is Rashi and that's for that reason Rashi also quotes from the pasuk, the beginning of the language, Am Kodesh. You should be a holy nation. Need be a state freer lihiyois loy lams gulov. There's a you shall be. That means That's Hashem is going to make you. Liyos. But here, Rashi quotes Liyoscha, that it's something you have to do. In addition to the Cha, also from the change of language. Liyoscha zu dein sein, that you should be Meitat Gedosha, with an emphasis of the Gedusha Mitzad the Yidden, with the emphasis on the sanctity that the Yidden have to do, per statement, then we understand that those Zayin and Am Kodesh, that this being an Am Kodesh is not Dafka Pulam Mitzad HaMeibsh, it's not specifically what Hashem does for you, being free to the composite. In the previous Liyos, you will be, that Hashem did it for you, nor the Teichen from the Eden's Pu'ula Mipnei HaTzivui. This is, the content is the Yid's act because of the command. So everything fits so beautiful. Not only the quote of Rashi, but also the verse itself sort of implies, by skipping the word lecha, and also writing liyoscha versus lihiyos. And Rashi quotes this to emphasize that what it is. And now we're going to explain that why Rashi doesn't bring the other places where it says Kedusha, and he brings the end of the pasuk. And the Rebbe says Rashi wants to bring a pasuk in which it's talking about the entire Klal Yisrael as a people, as a nation, and that's we find Dafke in the pasuk that Rashi quotes, that the Yoscha Am Kodesh, like it says, Vis Kadishta Visim Kedoshim. Let's look inside. But this is over the Shaili Kinal. The question remains, however, Atzivu of Kedusha Gefit Meshem Frier Kedoshim to you. We find already a command that didn't need to be holy. Noch Frier Vis Kadishta Visim Kedoshim. The Rebbe said in Parsha Shmini, and at the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim. The Rebbe is Rashi might think Befeirush Nit Merames durch Goymer. Therefore, Rashi quotes specifically and doesn't say it through a Goymer, not just the word V'li Yoscha, but he brings from Pasuk V'li Yoscha Am Kodesh. Means that should be a holy nation, the Am Kodesh. The Pesukim do seinen Oisna Rosh zu bringen. The verses here are intent to bring out the Oisgeteltkeit from Eden als Am, to distinguish the separation of the Yidden as a nation. As the beginning of the verse that preceded it, V'Hashem have mircha hayoim. God has distinguished He separated you to Him from the nations of the world. You should be His treasured nation. So also this command in our parsha is not an individual command. It's not a command for each individual as an individual, but it's meant for the whole people. Zayin Zayin and Am Kodesh, a holy nation. And the river is a dem masim zogun. And therefore, on here it's fitting to say, Ados is the dibur v'yisam li kedoshim from say Parshas Kedoshim. That's what Rashi says. That's the saying where Hashem said, "You shall be to me holy," from the end of the Parshas Kedoshim. But dort is der tzivui oich. Their command there is also similar to here of Hazak Kedusha was tailt say up als am von alle umas. It's such a sanctity, a separation that distinguishes them as a people from all the other nations. With their posik is mamshech. As the posik continues over there, v'yisam li kedoshim ki kodesh ani, be holy to me, because kodesh ani Hashem, I am holy. And then it says va'avdil eschem min ha'amim li is li, I have separated you from the nations to be mine, to be Mashenk in the posik say Parsha Shmini, Viskadishta Visim Kedoshim, but the posik in the end of Shmini, Viskadishta Viskadoshim, Al Derech Ze Kedoshim Tiyu Berosh Parshas Kedoshim, And also the Kedoshim T in the beginning of Kedoshim was dort is nit mudgish. Over there, it's not emphasized that the Zayin Tzivuim of the Kedusha from Klal Am Yisrael, that these are instructions for the sanctity of the general Jewish people. The have the losum from all umas and their separation from all the nations. Nor tzivuim to yederit nas yachid. There are commands for each individual, for Jews as individuals. So Rashi wants to bring the posik in which it's something, a distinction that the Yid's Kedusha that they accomplish makes them separate from all the nation. As the other commands of the Torah are always individual, they're not talking to the people. But in this case, since we're talking about the Mircha, the Islam school, Rashi finds the posik v'yisam li kedoshim, because over there is v'avdeleschem min ha'amim, so that kedoshim is talking about as a nation, and that's why Rashi brings that posik. In Oz Zayin, the Rebbe is going to continue to explain in Pnimis Yonim the difference between skula, which is the treasure nation that Hashem gives you, and the kedoshim that we have to accomplish, which is the tzibah to the Yidden as a people. And the Rebbe is going to continue also to learn the lesson of it. There's going to be a great arichas, a long arichas now in the Pnimis Inyonim. So first in Oz Zayin, the Rebbe asked that it's according to the Rebbe's explanation till now, it seems that the beginning of the Pasuk Yutes, which we were discussing, the end of the Pasuk Yutes, when it says Kasher Diber, that it talks about the Pasuk that to be Kodesh, which is a mitzvah, not something which the Eibishter does, but that is that the Yidden need to do to be Kodesh, Kasher Diber, a tzibui from Hashem. How does that fit with the beginning of the Pasuk? In the beginning of the Pasuk, it says, Ulisitcha Elyon. That seems clearly that is what Hashem does for you. It almost seems more that Kasher Diber fits with the end of Pasuk Yud Ches, in which the Pasuk says, V'lishmer kol mitzvosov, and L'yoscha am kodesh Kasher Diber, to be am kodesh, because that's the level of tzibui. But for sure, the beginning of Pasuk Yutes seems to be Milomailo. And the Rebbe will go into a big explanation and the rest of the Sikha, after several introductions, to explain that these two psukim, the Pasuk Yutes and Pasuk Yutes, they are split into two levels that the Yidden are distinguished from the non-Yidden. The Yidden and the Goyim, the difference between them. And Pasuk Yutes talks about the higher level, that the mere existence of a Yid is an Am Segula. It explains that Segula means even while it's hidden, which means it doesn't have to function anything. The essence of a Yid is there together with Hashem, and therefore that's a higher madrega. And then in the second pasuk, the pasuk over there talks about how within the connection of Goyim, where there is existence of Goyim, over there too, the Yid is higher, and he has to be Kodesh, as we will see in great detail. Just brought out of the point. Let's see inside. Zayin. We still need to, however, understand in the inner matter of things. Let it be true. As Kodesh. Now, what does the pasuk mean? Kodesh over here in pasuk Yutes, at the end is Benegeyed der Kedusha. So we're not talking about a Kedusha which the Eibishter gives you. That is connects to the Kedusha Welche is der Teuchen von Iden's Pula, which is the contents of what the Yid does. The Yid needs to make Kedusha, or before he said the Jewish people as a whole need to make Kedusha. But it's the act of a Yid, the Yid's Pula, because of the command. Nit v'liyas lo'lam zgula, unlike the Pasuk Yud Ches, which it says to be for him a treasured nation. Over there, it's not at Sivui for him, but over there, that's done by Hashem. That's accomplished through Hashem. But the question is, if you look in the beginning of the Pasuk, Yutes, it seems to be disconnected from there. Vos is ober the shayches. What is, however, the connection? Von v'lihiyoischa am kodesh. You should be am kodesh, which is the end of Pasuk Yutes, which means the pu'ula that Yidden should do kedusha. Zum inyan, to the idea what the Pasuk Yutes begins with, von ulisitcha elyon al kol hagoyim, to make you, to put you above all the nations. So here, very clearly, the Pasuk L'sitcha Elyon Al Kol HaGoyim is talking about what Hashem does, makes you over all the nation. Was in selben Pasuk Bas Chaloseh, this is in the same Pasuk Yutes in the beginning. So we're already talking over here also by something that Hashem is doing for you. So how does that connect with the end of the Pasuk, which we're saying that Liyoischa Am Kodesh means that you should be, that's something that you should do, but here the Pasuk is talking again what Hashem does. V'lichayra, it would seem, the end of Pasuk Yud Ches ends V'lishmer Kol Mitzvah. Ending that Pasuk should be Liyoischa Am Kodesh, that do the mitzvahs and be Kedoshim. Lichayra is Liyoischa Am Kodesh. Liyoischa Am Kodesh, which is in the end of Pasuk Yud Ches, Mer Shayich to Lishmer Kol Mitzvah, it has more connection to the Lishmer Kol Mitzvah, which is the end of Pasuk Yud Ches, in which Voshteit Gorim Friedikum Pasuk. That's in the previous Pasuk. That's the Pasuk Yud Ches, not in Yud Tes, in where it says Liyos Cham Kodesh. Hayois. Why does it make more sense over there? Because as dort retzich wegen der Meile von Eden. In Zeir Eisfirun di Tzivui. Over there, we talk about the advantage of Yidden because they accomplish and they fulfill their command, Lishmer Kol Mitzvah, to guard all the mitzvahs. Base Azul Sitcha Elyon, but this Pasuk Yutes, which starts off with give you a put you on the top, is a Chashiva Sumaila. This is an importance and an advantage was very given for the Meibishten. That is being given by Hashem. That is bedoimet zuliyas le'lam zgula. This is similar to be to him as a treasured nation, in which Pasuk Ches begins. We accept what Hashem does. That's the same thing. The beginning of Pasuk Yud Tes will sitcha elyon al kol hagoyim, which Hashem does. So why does the Pasuk follow with to liyas cham kodesh to do the idea of kedusha? So the Rebbe says we'll understand this by first explaining the Haftorah, which gives us a concept of what it is expected and what's the purpose and how we fit the nations of the world into creation versus a Yid. So the Rebbe brings down from the Haftorah. But das Verstehen behagdim das was in der Heintiker Haftorah, in this week's Haftorah, in the Haftorah Parshas Tovo, it is brought out at length the promises of the future to come. So what does the Pasuk says? That the nation will go by the light of the Yidden. And the kings will go by the shine of the light, of the shine of the Yidden. Your sons of Yerushalayim and Tzin, they'll come from a distant, and your daughters outside Manov Goimer, they will be fed, nursed on the side, is the way of a baby is nursed, holding it on the side. The oid and more further. So we talk about what are the nations of the world going to be doing. They're going to be supporting and taking care of the Yidden. As the Umas Ha'olam Ve'elam Badinan, that the nations of the world will serve. Unton Altslu Tevosum from the Yidden. They will do everything for the benefit of the Yidden. Biz, to the extent we are firt ois in posik, that the posik concludes over there. What happens those who won't want to be to serve the Yidden? As a goy, v'hamamlocha asher lo yavducha. The nation and the kingdom that will not serve you, yovedu will be lost. V'hagoyim chorev yecharovu, and the nations will be destroyed. Basically, they don't have any existence right if they don't do and become the servants and do everything for the benefit of the Yid. The question is, why? Why will they be destroyed if they don't do and become the servants to serve the Yidden for the benefit of the Yidden? Darf man verstehen. So you need to understand. We can understand. We have the 7 mitzvahs, Noach mitzvahs, commands. Was goyim seinen of seinen stave geworden, that the non-Jews have been commanded. So they were commanded to do them. So if they don't fulfill one of the 7 Noachat laws, they deserve, that's why, the punishment of Misa. But you don't find, doesn't seem that we have a kinchiyuv tzivui. Should be an obligation or a command as goyim darfim badin indeed that the non-Jews need to serve the Yid. So why would we give a punishment? Yevedu yecharovu. It's not even a command. Ubefrat asvadit mekayim zayin dos. Especially, we don't just give a punishment. We say that if you don't deserve it, so zekumen der einish yevedu yecharovu. They should get to the punishment of being lost and destroyed. Why such a harsh punishment when we don't even find that there is a mitzvah for that? And the Rebbe gives the explanation that because the entire purpose of a goy, of nations of the world, is for them to be in service of the Yid. All of creation is there in order for a Yid to serve Hashem, to fulfill the purpose of creation. That's why everything else was created. And therefore, when something does not fulfill its mission, what it was created, it gets automatically lost because it's not fulfilling its purpose of creation. Ches. The explanation of this, but Geret come upon, and we've spoken many times. As the ganze Bria, the entire creation, which includes the nations of the world, they're not a goal and an entity for themselves. They're not there independently for an own purpose. Nor blois alsem the whole world, everything that was created as a tool, as a middle to serve, because of it. Chazal, as our sages of blessed memory say, Bereshis is Bishvil Yisrael Shenikru Reshis. Bereshis means that the Eibishter created the world because of Yisrael, who are called Reshis. They are the goal, they are the purpose and the goal from from creating the world and everything that's in the world. Everything in the world, all matters of the world, including the nations of the world, everything is created for Bereshis Bishvil Yisrael. For the Yisrael are called Bereshis. On the Osid Lovei, and therefore in the future to be Wenn es wird nisgale werden, the amitis hametzias for jeden, but when the true existence of every year, of every creation will be revealed, and we'll be able to see what it is created for. But then it will be accomplished that you will be able to see openly the tachlis, the goal to live the Welt, why the world was created. That why you'll be able to see it. It'll be openly then, because you'll see the true existence of the world. You'll see you'll be able to see that they were created because of the Yidden. That means that's their goal right now too, and they're here for the purpose of the Yid. But now it's obscure; it's not visible. Then, when things will be open, it will be revealed, and you'll see the true existence of every creation. You'll see that they're only created there as an emtsoyi, as a middle to serve the Yid. The Rebbe is das machriach. That's why this forces out as a goy v'hamamlocha shelo yavducha, that the nation and the kingdom that are not going to serve you, as divos firuni durch matoros briyosam als an emtsoyi, those who do not accomplish the goal of their creation, which means als an emtsoyi, because they are just in the middle for the Yid to be able to serve Hashem, and they don't do their part, being that in service for the Yid to be able to do his avodah, his purpose of creation. If they're not there, you have able to get lost. They lose their existence automatically. And the Rebbe says this idea that not fulfilling their goal, and therefore it's just on its own, they lose their mitzias, is also the reason why by the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach, it's across the board. A goy, a Ben Noach, who violates any of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach is B'chuyev Misa, while by Yidden there's different levels of violations. Because over there it's his whole mitzias. Yesh loymar, Ados is the time, you can say this is the reason. Parvosa Ben Noach kommt Misa for over sein. If jeder einer von the Zayin Mitzvah Ben Noach. There's a reason why a Ben Noach deserves Misa, the punishment of the death penalty, for violating every one of the 7 Noachite commands. Nicht wie der Einshim wo seinen bei Eden. This is different than the punishments which apply to the Yidden. Welche seinen verschieden Leute verschieden keine Mitzvah. They're different according to the difference of the mitzvahs. The Zayin is why. So how come it's different? By Yid, there's different punishment for different mitzvahs. Over there, it's all across the board. All 7 get Misa. The reason is the Zayin mitzvahs from B'nai Noach is in Yonam. What is the idea behind the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach? Sibas mitzias from B'nai Noach. That's the reason of their existence, is for these mitzvahs. And all koza, and these 7 mitzvahs and their existence is B'shvil Yisrael, B'shvil HaTorah, is for the Bereishis, the 2 Reishis, because of the Yidden, and for the cause of the Torah. Is B'shaz Efiruni Dur Kavanos B'riyosam. So if they are not fulfilling the intent of their creation, so they automatically lose the cause on their yisoid and the basis from their existence. So they just lose that because that's the whole reason why they're there in the first place. Und das ist der Pirush Pnimi von Ulesitcha Elyon al Kol Hagoyim Asher Oso. The Pasuk you test that we were discussing. And we're saying that the Eibishter puts you above all the nations that he has made. This idea, there's nations of the world. The nations of the world have an existence, but their existence is only for the Yid, and the Yid is above their existence. Und das ist der Pirush Pnimi von Ulesitcha Elyon al Kol Hagoyim Asher Osa. To place you above all the nations that he made. Wer steht in Shachal HaTorah, The Sif Sekoyin on the Torah says, Ki'ilu la'asum elo bishvilcha. It's as if he didn't make them just because of you. K'moshe Amar ben Azai, as Ben Azai said, L'nivru kulam el lisham shenichulu. Everything in the world was created to serve me, to serve the Yid. So that means u'lesitcha elyon al kol hagoyim, that everything is for the Yid. Let's haste. As the inyan from u'lesitcha elyon al kol hagoyim, to put you above, at the top of all the nations, is that oiskirin bepoyil the matorah from Zeir Bashafen Benim. So that is the accomplishing, in actuality, the purpose of the creation of all the goyim is l'sitcha elyon. So you be on the top, that they'll do, but this is amein for them gilu de l'osid canal. This is similar to the revelation of the future, where over there is to be visible that the Yidden, that the amitis, the mitzias of the whole world is for the Yid. But here, l'sitcha elyon, this will be similar to see that everybody is created for the Yid, similar to what it says in the Haftorah, which the Asid love will be fully. Al pizekum tois. So based this, it turns out, as der Teuchung von the zwei Psukim now, the content, the idea of these two Psukim, Pasuk Yud Ches and Pasuk Yud Tes, Seinu bringt arois dem Yisro and Maila in der Metzias von Eden Lagabe, the Metzias von Umas Olam. It expresses the advantage and the greatness of the existence of a Yid relative to the existence of the nations of the world. V'hu hifrishcha elov me'ame ha'oretz liyis loy la'am sgula, which is Hashem hamircha hayem, that the pasuk starts before la'am sgula. It says he separated you from the nations of the world to be an am sgula. So that's also talking about the advantage of the Yidden. As the Yidden zijn ausgeteilt from the Ame Oretz, that what is the distinction and how are they separate from the nation of the world? They meet with the fact for Zeir Matorah, the Tachlis is in Zeir Mitzias Atzma, in their Mitzias themselves. So in both of these psukim, both in the Pasuk L'sitcha Elyon al Kol HaGoyim, as the Shach explains, that's Pasuk Yud Tes. The Torah tells us that everything is created for the Yidden, and Lenivra Elisham Sheni. That means Elyon al Kol HaGoyim. And the same thing is in the Parsha, in Lihis L'Lam's Gula, we're also saying, that you're different then. Different. Their Matorah, how are they different? Their Matorah v'tachlis is in Zeir Mitzias Atzma. The purpose and the goal of the Yidden is just in their existence itself, not to serve for something else. They're not in the middle to serve for something other existence, but in themselves, who could come on say further. The Rebbe will explain now that these two psukim talk about the advantage of the Yidden as a level of themselves, not as an emtsoyi, but over here too we have the two madregas. We have the level, the way it comes in Pasuk Yud Ches, and then we have the way it comes in Pasuk Yud Tes. But first the Rebbe will bring that when it says in Pasuk Yud Ches to be a sgula, it talks over there about, as Rashi brings down, even when you have a treasure which is not in the open. The Rebbe asks, so what's the value of a treasure when it's not in the open? If you have a treasure, if you adorn the crown of the king with diamonds and with precious stones, so there's value. Everybody sees it. What's the benefit of having a treasure which is hidden by the king? And the answer is that that's actually not for show. That's for the king himself. That's a level which is an enjoyment, a play for the king. Loves to know and play with his jewelry. That's something himself. The Yidden are considered as gula, which means at a certain level, even just because they're connected on the higher level. That's the Liyus Lois Gula. And then the second level is the way the Yidden are above the nations as they connect to the nations, as we'll go on. So let's in Oistes. The Bir Bazeh. The explanation of this. The Taich von Vahashem Hemircha Hayoim Liyus Loilams Gula. What is the meaning? Hashem distinguished you today to be to him as a treasured nation. Is Rashi touched us. Rashi translates it v'yisam l'zgula. Was bring do. They bring the oitzer chaviv. This is considered a treasure that is dear. Kamoi, similar, we find the pasuk as zgulas melochim, the treasure of the kings, which is kliyakor, precious vessels, avonim tovis, precious stone, good stones. Shamlochim goinzim, the kings they hide them. Kach atem til liskula, you're also going to be to me as a treasure. Mishar umesh from the other nations. So it seems like we a hidden treasure for Hashem from the other nations. Since this is a example that the Torah says about Yid, it's moving, it's understood, as it is betachlis as diuk, that it's totally precise. The moshel is exact, is very exact. So we need to understand in the moshel of the precious stone, what is the toyelis from the kliyokar bavonim tovis b'shas goinzim? What's the benefit of the precious stones and the expensive, the precious vessels and the good stones when they're hidden? They're hidden and they're obscure. You don't see them. If you take, for example, if you set them in the ring of the king, or in Keser or in the crown of the king, they add, as understood, in the glory, in the beauty of the king. Nice ring, a nice crown. As opposed to when they're hidden. It's a hidden treasure. You can't see it from the eyes of the sea. And it seems that they're not accomplishing anything. There's nobody benefiting or enjoyment from their preciousness and from their beauty. No. So this Bechlal doesn't seem to have any benefit. The only time that you have a benefit from them, when they're taken out of their hidden treasure from the hiding place. We take out the treasure from the hiding. Because there's a great need, because you got to win the war, so you have to take out the hidden treasures. The Rebbe, ask the Rebbe. The previous Rebbe says in the Maimorim, in the of the Hemshech that were given out for the Hilula, for Yud Shvat, in those Maimorim, that in order to win the opponent is the Melech Mevazviz. The Melech wastes, uses Losh Mevazviz, the Rebbe will point out, Kols, Gulis, Oitzris. All the treasures of the hidden treasures, the Hoin Yokar, of a very fortune, a precious fortune. Hanesav Nikbas Kamashon that was gathered and was collected in over many years, from generation after generation. He has never used it for any other matter. And it's hidden and it's sealed, there's nobody can see it. That's the only time you have a benefit. While they're sitting in the treasures, nobody benefits from them. So what's the purpose? And even here, you're not saying you're using them. Here you say you're wasting them. It seems to say there's not a regular benefit from them. Then too, this is referred to as pisbus, as a wasting. you wasting them because you need to win the war. So that means it's not a normal use. This is not a usual use for them. Totally exception of the rule. You're using it for the beating the opponent. But so what's the whole idea of this treasure that is hidden and doesn't serve anything? And the Rebbe explains it doesn't serve anything on purpose, means it serves the purpose of the king itself. That is the highest of the levels. Yud, the Hasbara Bazeh, the explanation in this, those was the Eitzeres bleiben gonus, this that the treasures remain hidden. Komus v'chosun, they are obscure, they are sealed, mein konroya, nobody can actually see them. Is val the Eitzeres seine negeya ube'erach from the Melech Alein, because these treasures are important and they are the relate, they're the same relative to the king himself. In sein etzem mitzias wie is for sich, as the king in his existence by itself, as is for himself, not as the king runs the country in which he expresses himself to other people, but in the king himself, these fortunes relate to the essence of the king as is by himself. There are treasures of the king, was tafkidum is their purposes as mitzvei wird durchgeführt in Yonam Malchus. The matter of the government is conducted through the other. By spending them on the needs of the country is similar. Or the fact that you set them in the crown of the king to add to the splendor, to the beauty of the king. So those are treasures that have a connection to his governments, with the people, to bring him beauty, to deal with the country, to deal with others. They add to the king's glory from other people. But those is that inyan ikr nogas hamalchus. So that is something very important. It's a main aspect of the conduct of the king. A king in his beauty, your eyes should see. You have to see the king's beautiful. So these are all functions for the king to be able to run his government and to also look beautiful, so that the king should come across in the most beautiful way. But on the other hand, those fortunes that are those treasures that are hidden of the king is nit kidei durchzuführen an inyan shel melucha. That's not in order to accomplish a matter of kingdom. That is verbunden mit der Melech allein. This is tied to the king himself. This is not for his ability to rule, but it's just the king himself. Sein etzem mitzias als Melech, his essence of his existence as king is verbunden, der mit is tied to the fact was hot genuzim, that he has these hidden treasures from avonim tevis margolius, of these precious good stones and pearls with welchen that is mishtasheya, with what he delights with, what he plays with, and hotter from tainig, and he has delight from there. Was das is moisif in sein emesdike reimemus. This adds to his true exaltness, his nasus atzmis. This is a essence of exaltness, not an exaltness by the people that they should see him b'yofye, but it's an exaltness within himself. That's what these hidden treasures accomplish for the king. And I will take that the Yidden become that treasure, the Yisum Lizgula, that specific treasure, that level applies to the Yidden. Das is Oich was Yidden sein and Lizgula. So Yidden are also to me a treasure, an Oitzer Choviv. The Etzem Mitzias from a Yidden is Hecher. The essence, existence of a Yid is higher. Afila from them was durch Zei Vert Nizgala Malchusi is Baruch Boilam, even higher than the fact that the Yidden are the ones that are revealing the kingdom, his blessed kingdom in the world. That's one function of the Yid. The Yid reveals Hashem's kingdom in the world. That's the level of where Hashem is a king over the world. But we have a higher level of Yid. The Yid are a zgula, they're a treasure, which is not related to the king and becoming and revealing the kingdom in the world. Mitzvahs that they do through the service of Torah mitzvahs, that they bring godliness into the world. Zeir tachlis, their goal is not to bring down something, is that etzem faranan kaizer, is just that they exist, that they're here. Eden Zainen Einzach Kaviyochel, the Eden are, so to speak, one thing, but with the essence, and who Hashem is. Und der Eberster is sich mishtasheyem mit Eden, and Hashem delights and enjoys and uses them as his playthings of Eden. Just as a king delights with those hidden treasures, and even more, that's the way Hashem delights with the Yidden. They add to the Reimemus of the king, Kumtois, so it turns out. As the Chilik von Eden and andere Umes. So what is the difference between a Yid and other nations? Now, we're not talking about anymore about bringing down godliness into the world. We're talking about the mere existence of a Yid is the existence of the Shashuyim, is the Zgula of the Eibstis Mishtasheyah. So what's the difference between a Yid and other nation? Is their Etzem B'riyah Bashaf. Their creation, they're being created. The Metzias from Umas Ha'olam is Nitzu Lib Zei Alei. The existence of the nations of the world is not for them. It's for the Yid. It's for the whole Bria is created. Nor zu libat zweiter Sach. It's for another matter. Zu ois virundem tafkid was is a zugeteilt one, so that they fulfill the mission, the position, the mission that was given to them. They have to do what is expected of them to do. That's the purpose of their creation, not just to be there, but to do something else for something else. But by Yidden is the Tachlis from Zer Bashaf, is the Etzem Faranakait. The goal and the purpose of their creation is just for them to be, not to do something for something else, just to be there. Even before they can do their mission in the world, just to be there. That's already an advantage that they didn't have over the nations of the world. And these are actually the two levels of the existence itself, even before they impact the world. And this means the Havaya Mircha Yoim, that Hashem has distinguished you today. He separated to you from the nations of the world. This is for Hashem himself, to be to him, to Hashem, for a treasured nation. As Eden seinen in ganzen ausgeteilt von Am Ha'oretz, that the Eden are totally separated from the nations of the world. They are a treasured nation. They are an Oitzer Chavim Kenal, a dear treasure, as mentioned before. Yudalef. Dermit, I was going to explain now the Psukim of Rosh Hashanah that we say connect this to Rosh Hashanah. Yudalef, the mitzvah man nicht verstehen the Sheiches from the Psukim to Rosh Hashanah, that these verses are connected to Rosh Hashanah. Of course, it's almost the Parshas Kisove before Rosh Hashanah, but also very more specific. The Rebbe brings down that the words Kiyudua as Hashem Hamartu Hayoim, that you have separated Hashem today, and then we say Gomer Hashem Amircha Yom, Hashem has distinguished you. Which day are we talking? Made them talk for Rosh Hashanah. That means Rosh Hashanah. But now we'll understand the connection to Rosh Hashanah. As Hashem Amartu Hayoim, that you distinguish Hashem, that you made Hashem distinguished is those was Eden seinen mamlich dem Obersten Rosh Hashanah. That is that the Yidden, they crown, they make Hashem for a king on Rosh Hashanah. As we say, Imru lefonei Malchios, say the Malchios, the set of Psukim of Malchios and the Shemon Esrei, in the Amida of Rosh Hashanah, Kidei Shetam Lechuni Aleichem, so that you will make me king over you. So that's the idea of Yidden are Hamarta Hayyim. You as Hashem Hamarta Hayyim by saying and making Hashem your king. Und V'Havaya Mircha Hayyim is those what the Rebbeinu Namton the Achtor from Yidden. That is that Hashem accepts the crowning of Yidden. Was those what Nimshach on Oivgiton in the Briya V'Seder Ishtalshlus. This is extends and is accomplished in creation and the order of the evolution of Derech with Chilas Abriya. Just like in the beginning of creation was who did Hashem consult the souls of tzaddikim. So when the Eibishter accepts now, once again, when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, and brings the Eibishter down into the whole world, which is really a continuation of what the Eibishter started by Chatchila consulting the Yidden when it comes to creation of the world, and they caused Hashem to create the world, and now they bring it down through their being mamlich the Eibishter. L'chayra, it would seem from them gufa was Eden sein in mamlich dem Eibishter, from the fact that Yidden can make Hashem the king is move on as is an do either is an in mamlich. So there must be that they exist before they make him for king. They cannot come after they made him for king. That's when the Eibishter creates Yidden, because they are the ones that are making Hashem for the king. They have to be there before the king, so they have to come before the Hamlocha. Same thing when we talk about in the beginning of creation, when the Eibishter consulted them. From them was the fact that we said, who did Hashem consult? The souls of the tzaddikim must mean that the tzaddikim were there before. Is move on. As they seinen do farther hamlocha, that they are exist before they made Hashem to a king. In was besteht dan sehr tafkid. So before creation of the world, they existed. So what was their purpose? There is no purpose over there. Their purpose is being there. Thus is the pirush v'nam zgula. That is the meaning of a treasured nation, a dear treasure was misgoines that you hide. Das heißt, as the emetz mitzias von Eden, that means that the true existence of the Yid is those was seinen, is the fact they are nel momeine kol chai unshashim lefonov. They are obscure from the eye of any living thing, and they are a play before Hashem beyond anything. They are one thing, so to speak, with the lesser atzmus. And they're similar to the essence of Moses Baruch. About Hashem, you can't say, God forbid, that he's there for something else. Same thing to Yidden. They're not there for something else. They're not there for a tafkid to serve something else. They're there to be there. But their Magid zogt, as the Magid says, as af koidim shenivru Yisrael, even before the Yidden were created, before their image has been engraved in the thought. That means at that level of machshava, they're tzura, they've been there just to be there, but that's before and not serving before a world. So we have now, the Rebbe is going to explain you the advantage of Yidden in essence without a world. And then we have the advantage of Yidden once there is a world. We have an existence with Nelma Kol Choyu. There's no Goyim, there's no existence at all. And then we have a second level in which there is Goyim, L'sitcha Elyon Al Kol HaGoyim, there is Goyim, and then they are higher level. Yud Beis. And this is the chiluk between the two psukim. This is the difference between the two verses. Hashem has distinguished you to be a treasured nation. This is Pasuk Yud Ches. When L'sitcha Elyon, in the beginning of Pasuk Yud Tes, L'sitcha Elyon, and then we say Kasher Diberloch at the union of Kedusha. The Meshlam Pasuk, that's wegen der Meile von Eden. The first pasuk talks about the advantage of Eden with Bachas is in ganzen ausgeteilt von Umas Olam, in which they're totally separate from nations of the world. La'am Segula. They are a treasured nation, Oitzer Choviv, a dear treasure. As Eden seinen Gonus Batzmusi is part of the Eden are treasured, hidden in this blessed Asmus. They're all one with Hashem. On the highest level, B'tzadem kum taruis. And this what comes out as a Avodah is an anoifum from the Lishmer Kol Mitz Oisa. So now the Rebbe brings out that here the Pasuk says, not talking about doing mitzvahs, so Lishmer Kol Mitz Oisa. Not talking about just doing mitzvahs, but we're talking about doing all mitzvahs. Those was Eden hidden Taryag mitzvahs that the Yidden, the fact that Yidden do 613 mitzvahs, nicht nur Zayin mitzvahs b'nei Noach, not just 7 like the Ben Noach, is nicht nur a chilek in Kamos. It's not just a quantity difference, 7 versus 613. As Yidden führen durch mehr mitzvahs et tafkidim, that the Jews accomplish more mitzvahs and more missions Ben Noach. No, this is an under eiches in Vilishmer, but rather this is a different quality in keeping the mitzvahs. It's not just a number, it's keeping all mitzvahs. By Umas Ha'olam, by the nations of the world which were created for a purpose, their keeping of the mitzvahs is with a measure and a limit. How many commands, how many jobs, how many missions they have been given to begin with? Because they serve there for a purpose. So therefore, what is the purpose of all the jobs that they need to do? But by Yidden, they are, so to speak, one thing. With the essence and the being of His blessed, as said before, is bazei that inyan fun velishmer kol mitzvahs. But there you have to keep all the mitzvahs. On there's no measure, there's no limit. He and his will is one. Whatever mitzvah, whatever will there should only be, is Eden welche seinen Einsach mit Atzmus, in the Eden that are one with Hashem, with essence, seinen Mosur, the Nosun, they durchführen dem Rotzen, are dedicated, devoted, they give themselves over to fulfill that Rotzen. All mitzvahs, whatever needs to be done, there is no number, there's no limit, there's no mission, there's no specifics, it's just a devotion, the essence, everything is done. That's the first pasuk. Or in the second pasuk, the Sitcha Elyon Goymer. Over here to bring you, put you above the Goyim, bring sich heraus the Meile from Eden. Over there we're bringing out the advance of Eden, euch wie sie werden nivdal mimukayim. Also, as they are separate from their source. We're talking about the when they come down. And they come down below into the world. As euch damol seine ze elyon al kol hagoyim. Here too, they're above all the goyim. Ze seinen der tachlis von der ganze bria. They are the goal of the whole creation. Und alle nivroim kol hagoyim, and all creations including all the goyim, zayin tzluv for them, kinal as before. This is something that the yid is above the goyim. Over here, lamata, that is comprehensible by the goy too. The first level, that the yid is in b'chlal in a different plane, and there is one with atzmus. That's not told the goyim. As in the second pasuk we see, this relates to the goyim. But this is such a advantage and a greatness of the Yidden. This is still within the reach, comparable. It's possible as the goyim don't kennen masig sein on their head, and they'll be able to reach, to grasp, and to sense the Am Yisrael is Elyon Kol Goyim. They can see that the Jewish people are above all the nations, because the Farzan is in Mahalil Mushabeh Din. That's why they praise and they sing about the Yidden, how great they are. They Zainen with their posik is Messiah. They are, as the posik concludes, L'tehilo l'shem ultiferes, for praise, name, for beauty. They can comprehend that. How is this expressed openly? By being a holy nation, as he spoke, by doing the mitzvahs and being Kedosh. As in Yonim Gashmim from Eden. But also when we talk about physical matters of a Yid, in welchen sie seinen Bechitzoni is gleich zu externally, it seems that they are similar to the nations of the world. They are really a holy nation to God your God. And this is Mudgesh, and that's something which the Goyim see, it comes down, and that's the relatable. This is Mudgesh and the Hamshach HaKos, was Rashi bring that up as emphasized in the continuation of the pasuk that Rashi brings there. The Yisem Likedoshim Goymer, that I separate you from the nations, you be mine. So you see, Rashi uses separate you from the nations. That means that you're in the erech of the Amim, and there they see they praise the Yid, that in the similarities, they're still different. And this is even more brought out, expressed in Rashi's commentary over there. How do we know? A person should not really say, oh, my soul is disgusted in swine meat. But what he should say, I can eat it. What could I do? Hashem decreed I shouldn't. Talmud Loimar. That's why the pasuk says, I distinguish you, separating the people to be mine. Why are you separated from them? Not because you can't stand the basar chazir, but it's l'shmi, because you're doing it for Hashem's sake. You might as well enjoy it, but you're not doing it because Hashem doesn't let you. You separate yourself from this sin, and you accept upon yourself the yoke of the heavenly kingdom. This means that means to say a Yid has the same possibility as a non-Jew. And yet he separates himself and he accepts upon himself the Malchus Shamayim. And this is the Kedusha that we're talking about, the separation from the nation in a level that when it comes down to this level, and still the Yidden are distinguished. Yud Gimel. So this is a lot, and a lot of Hasidic thought and depth, and to really appreciate the Maila of a Yid in the both levels in the two psukim as the Rebbe discussed over here. But from all of the above, you can see how great a Yid is. Aroisna, from all the above, you can take out a very special lesson in Goydel Hazihirus, how great we need to be careful. The Hazrizus and the alacerty, be quick. How much of Avon Avas Yisrael for the love of thy fellow. To the extent we need to devote to to work with another Yid. And the advantage to be a treasured nation, which is the higher level, just existence, is though by Yedrin. Every Jew has that. When we talk about the advantage of doing the mitzvahs and poyel, okay, that could be differences, but the first level, liyas le'am segula, that exists by every Yid. In welchem matze Yid gefindt sich b'keichosav hagilui, whatever standing situation a Yid finds himself in, his revealed strength is an alamo mitzad etzem mitzuutzei legamri mufresh ma'meoretz. But he's always, because of his existence, he's separated from the nation of the world. Being that he is a seed, a sprouting of my planting, and he is part of my hands made to be proud of, to be praised from the Ebersten. We see him Haftorah, as we say in the end of the Haftorah. Was their far is Yeder Ida Metzias Netzchi. That's why every Yid is eternal, because he is a Netzer Matoai and he is an Amsgula. Because the far, the Yid is not called Yisrael, Yeshlam Chelek Maboa. That's why everybody has a part in the world to come. Una Metzias from Olo b'Machshava, and he's an entity that went up in Machshava. Was his Le'atzmai. That is for Hashem himself, nit v'kol habriya, not like the rest of the creation, was b'dvar havaya shemasim nasu. Dvar havaya shemasim, that's the dibur, was in yana dibur shulazulas. We need to take this advantage, this Maila Atzma, shouldn't remain hidden. Maila Atzma shouldn't be a Sgula, a Gonus. We have to bring it out from obscurity to revelation. Ubefrat in the Voch when we learned the Torah Parshas Tovo, when they have Torah now, especially during the week in which we read in the Torah the portion of Tovo and the above to have Torah. When they talk from Chai Elul, and especially when the day of Chai Elul, the Yom HaLedes from the Shnei HaMeiros HaGedolim, that is the birthday of the two great luminaries from the Baal Shem Tov, from the Malten Rebbe, of the Baal Shem Tov, Rebbe, Falt Ois, comes out the Dikvis from Shana Zu as the setup of this year in the Vok from Parshas Tovo. Chai Elul is in the week Parshas Tovo. Was from the Yisoides HaIkrim from Toras HaChasidus, the main foundations of the Hasidic teaching from Baal Shem Tov and Alten Rebbe is of the Baal Shem Tov, the Alten Rebbe is Ahavas Yisrael's love of thy fellow Yid. Hotman abazunderen the sinas koyach zu poiln auf ayin. You have a separate power that is given to impact a Yid, Yeder Yid, every Yid. Azayin Maila Atzmis Vambaye Mircha Yom Lias Leilam Zgula. That his essence advantage, that Hashem has chosen you to be this treasured nation. So by him this Galaver, that should be revealed by him. In the Oifun, in the way for Lishmer Kol Mitzvahs of Repoil, to keep all the mitzvahs but in actuality. And also to bring out openly the meaning from the Sitcha Elyon Al Kol HaGoyim Asher, also to make you, place you above all the nations that he made. Peace with the Yoshcham Kodesh Lashem Lekecha, till as the pasuk finishes, to be a holy people to God your God. So Zayin Legamri Hecher, moved from Yedin Indian from Goyishkeit, to be higher and separate from every matter of Goyishkeit, Koilod and Goyash Bekirbucha, which includes the Goy within you. The them tut menoid beyeser say them inyan That's how we accomplish with more force the idea, make me a king over you, by revealing and getting to the level of being Kaddish, and our great level as a Vernikel Ein Koil. That also would be recognized for everybody by Hashem Elokei Yisrael Melech, that Hashem, the God of Israel, is the king. As Eich Goyim Zen, as Eden Zayin Nam's Kulan. That also the nations see that the Yidden are a treasured nation. And from them, and then from this, from Kiyum HaYud and Nevuos Yeshaya, B'Haftodos Parshasenu. From this we come to the fulfillment of the promise in the prophecy of Yeshaya in the Haftodos Parshasenu. Bisum Siyum, all these beautiful Haftodos promises we Rebbe quoted before, but until we come to the end of the Haftodos, Ani Havaye Be'ito Achisheno, I Hashem in timely hasten it. Very soon in our days. This is Mesikas Shabbos Parshas Tovo Tovshin.